Hello everybody, thanks for coming to today's lesson that I put together today about something moving forward in our I don't know. What are we moving forward on? Making videos without scripts. Anyways, moving forward on our music theory knowledge with harmonic minor, to get to the point. I have previously made this channel, all these videos, I don't know, I got a couple hundred now. But everything based on the major scale and chords from the major scale and everything derived from the major scale. And it's been about time. I've always had this on the back of my mind for a while now that I should start exploring harmonic minor and finding out some things about it, seeing if there's any geometry involved. Oh, yeah, there is. Is it easy? Oh, heck yeah, it is. And so I want to kind of get to, we'll talk about what it is first. And at the end, I'll kind of get to how I stumbled onto it and what made it that what I played, how I picked up my guitar. I guess the point would be there that how I picked up my guitar and I played something, a major scale. You know, you pick up your guitar to noodle. And this is what I mean by learning music theory and how it kind of can be very interesting and fun and make every time you pick up your guitar like this magical exploration time. And I'm telling you, like I've said this before, like every time I pick up my guitar since I started with my kind of push towards educating myself on music theory, it's always this rabbit hole, this new thing. Like all of a sudden I'm like, hey, all that makes sense. Hey, I should see about this. I should write this down and start exploring. And it turns into this rabbit hole of all new information. And I end up finding something new. And I can go on with that day going, oh, yeah, hey, if this day sucked, I still learned something cool on guitar. So that's what happened. I played like typical, I picked up my guitar. And so the first thing I did was just play a major chord. What the heck, right? And now, to shake things up, if you always play the same thing, you never challenge yourself. And if you don't challenge yourself, you don't learn anything. So, as I was playing, I could have played and been like, okay, yeah, that's the 4 and the 5, and the minor, and the minor, and the 1 for the key of F. But I know that stuff now. So it wouldn't have been, there was a time when going over that helped reinforce and make me go, oh, yeah, okay, I definitely do know that. Now I kind of know that I know that. So playing the major thing, I said, what can I do differently? And I've played other chords before and explored what that was, blah, blah, blah. Today I played actually yesterday, I played another major chord, a half step down. And I thought, why do those ring so good together when in the major scale there's not two major chords a half step apart from each other? Because you tend to also, when you're new and you learn this music theory and you're like so excited, you think, all right, I've learned the rules of music and nothing else, this is what sounds good and nothing else will sound good. And then you're like, well, why does that sound good? That's not part of music theory. Still, but it is. There's some theory behind it. Because theory is an explanation. It's always a way to explain what you played. They're not really rules, as I've said before. So I thought to myself, I think that sounds cool. What is the explanation behind that? And so what I thought to do next was to play all those notes of both of those triads. Those are triads. It's the same old angular triad shape we've been talking about on the previous lessons. 1, 3, 5, and that's C, and then B. And so I played all the notes together. I went, and then I went, wait a minute. I said, holy crap, for 2 major chords, that sure sounds exotic for coming out of 2 major triads. And they started to go, I know what that is. There's only one scale that sounds exotic like that, and it's not, can't be in the major scale, can't be Phrygian or Phrygian or Phrygian, whatever you call it, because these are 2 coming from 2 major chords a half step apart. And then I'm like, I bet that's, boom, today's lesson, harmonic minor. I go, I need to explore today harmonic minor. This is what the universe is calling me to do. And explore we did, and came up with a great lesson for you. So I guess we got to the ending point there before I started. But I think that was relevant to kind of say, how I got to this point, and to whet your appetites for the new people that are always popping into my channel that are maybe thinking about music theory and kind of enticed by it, but don't really know where to start. Go back to the channel. You got some things to do before you'll understand this lesson fully. But I think I do think I can spell this out really nice for some new people. But it will help if you understand the major scale. This is because basically harmonic minor comes from an understanding of the major scale. So, and the question we need to ask is there any symmetry? Now, let's start with this, our first little lesson here. So from the looks of it, and this is what I thought at first too, till I realized something so totally easy, that looks like quite more of a jumble of notes than the typical major scale. Off the bat, I don't see any patterns, even though there's no pattern. And if you know how we conceptualize the major scale using a block of notes that helps us navigate the fretboard very easily. It doesn't look like that's here, but it is. Stay tuned. So to start with, you start by learning the scale. And here it is in the orange notes up here where the plus sign is. So let's go up the scale here. In this fretboard diagram, I've put it on E. Now that's going to it's going to have a really good purpose for something I'm going to lead off into my next lesson, which is going to be, let's use a real song example that everyone probably knows and loves that watches this channel, and that would be the song YYZ from Rush. Yeah, that one. So we're using the key of E here, E harmonic minor scale. However, for full transparency, I've kind of done a disservice here in the way that had I put this in the key of A, which you'll see in a minute, relates to the key of C, this would make a little bit, the patterns would be a little clearer as related to the C major scale. However, it's besides the point. It doesn't really make too much a difference. So stay tuned with me here. Let's follow along. So we're on the E string here, the low E, and we'll do this row of notes. I mean, we could do this. Maybe I'll do a both high and low E string, whatever. The scale is this. Now, E natural major is close. It would be. Sounds kind of cool, but all kind of actually, once you get harmonic minor in your ear, natural minor sounds kind of boring, which is, where it always sounds pretty cool. But, I've heard that before in the YYZ song. Anyways, natural minor being harmonic minor being So we're starting to get to something right there. The relationship really between harmonic minor and natural minor, not necessarily natural major. So this is why sometimes you can be misled or find it thinking that there's this big, great hurdle that will be before you learning the harmonic minor. If you've already spent this time to learn major and how the modes work in major and the chords and caged, and you're doing all this stuff to get this major scale hammered into your head, and then you're thinking harmonic minor, just forget about it. Especially when people relate it like this. Here's our next slide here. As you can see, look at the fretboard diagram down here. It's the same thing, only we've grayed out all the notes now. And so it really looks like just a brand new jumble of notes. And many times you'll see that harmonic minor is taught to you in relation to the major scale. So they'll say, well, it's a minor scale because you can see here it's got a flat third instead of a regular third. What are the differences between major Ionian being, we'll start from E, so, and harmonic minor, which would be so you basically can see here between the two, between the green and the gray, what are the differences? Well, there's actually only two notes that are different. It's the flatted third and the flatted sixth. You flatten the sixth and it becomes the fifth. Now, what are these for the new people that are like, wait, what, you flat the what? How the? Look, they're intervals. And you can see here, I've got them written in small font here. Root, flat 2, 2, 3, flat 3, 3, 4, flat 5, 5, sharp 5, 6. And right there, where you go, well, wait a minute, if that is at intervals a sharp 5, how come it's a sharp 5 there and a flat 6 there? Because when you're naming a scale, you want your numbers to work consecutively. You don't want two 5s. It's just so you consider this the 6 lowered instead of the 5 sharpened. However, when you consider the basic language of music, you are considering the fact that the 5 is the strongest note away from the root. It creates a shell on the chords. It's the two notes of a power chord that ring together totally harmoniously and don't give any emotion to the chords. It just is two solid tones that harmonize well together. And because it's so strong, it's got its own gravity. It's like a moon and the root is the earth. The 5 is the moon. It's got its own gravity and it takes this interval on its one side, it's a flat 5, and on this other side, it's a sharp 5 because they're in relation to the 5. So, in other words, if I took that power chord, it sounds more like I'm extending the 5, which would be called augmenting if this was a full chord, than lowering the 6, because the 6 isn't naturally in a chord unless it's usually an extension or an alteration to a chord. It's not in a triad. First the triad's 1, 3, 5, so 6 is always going to be in or a 2. So, very generally spoken, for people really, anyone watching this that's really versed in classical theory that knows it to the T, they could be like, I'm not saying Berkeley said it's not. So, okay. So we have two changes there, and that's harder to conceptualize. What if we could make it so there was only one change? Can we do that magically, geometry style? Yes, we can. Check it out. However, down here, we have natural minor, Aeolian. Now, newbies have heard of natural minor, but they don't get the connection between natural minor and this major scale that we were just talking about. They're connected, but they don't really see or conceptualize the connection. It just seems like two different scales, but it's the same scale from a different root, and here we can see that. They're both in green. Check out how the green notes align perfectly with the green notes from the major scale above, because it's the same pattern of notes starting on a different root. What is this different root? You've heard of the sixth degree. This sixth degree is right here. It's the sixth interval. So there's a lot of jargon in music theory that throws newbies off. You're thinking, degrees? No one taught me about degrees. Fahrenheit, Celsius, what degrees are we talking about here? Look, all they mean are the intervals. So major, we count up from the 1. Let's just start on A major. Well, we'll start on C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The sixth degree of the scale. That's what they mean. We go down here. If we start here and build our scale, now we'll call it the roots. So that's what we got the R in the square. When we build it, we're going to see here that we have a 2, a flat third, because we don't have this interval, which would be, as we see here, the third. The one before it is the flat third. So we have the flat third. Then we have a 4th, a 5th, and our next interval, if we're considering all the tones in the same order as the major scale, becomes a flat 6th naturally. The natural minor scale. And it's got a flatted 7th and a root. And the flatted 7th makes sense because when it comes to minor, the tone that rings out, the 7th, that rings out most harmoniously with minor or against the flat third is the flat 7th. That's why that scale has a naturally normal yet minor sound, or what we could call today minor. And doesn't have any pizzazz to it. Now, if we take that scale and we make all the same notes again, root, 2, flat third, 4th, 5th, flat 6th, in the same pattern as our Aeolian scale, but we take that 7 and raise it, it gives it that cool new flavor that sounds kind of exotic. And it's due to this, what's called a leap. Another thing is that this scale here, the natural minor, has natural steps to it. A whole step or a half step. They're both called steps. This is your smallest step. This is the biggest step you can take in music. When you take a greater step or jump to another note that's farther than a whole step, it's called a leap. A leap through thin air. So we have... That was the... For some reason I played the C sharp. So throw everybody off, right? Okay, so yeah, you can see now we have a scale to learn that we only have one note to alter, and that's a lot easier to conceptualize. Plus, since we've realized that this does have a strong relation to the major scale, we get our navigation square, and that is right here. Well, it's not exactly that, but it sort of is. You can see it, like, for example, down here. Let's find one of the R's. Here's a plus sign. So there's the, this is the 7th fret on the A string, the E. So 2, flat 3, 5, flat 6 is our square. And because we have that square, we can navigate this almost exactly like the major scale. Meaning, this is, now you'll have, newbies will have to go, if you've just jumped into my lessons today, you'll have to go back, although we will cover this on my last slide here. I've got 5 more slides to go. On my last slide, I will cover this, but as a, you may want to go back and primer yourself. Primer yourself. You're going to just cover yourself in some spray primer. Sorry, I'm ruining my lesson. All right, the visual is just too much. You're going to primer yourself. Like, look at the gray color primer that I used for this scale here. prime yourself or refresh yourself with the navigation square method that I use. This, like, for example, you can see it here. A square connects to a square here, which connects to a square here, and you have, for all intents and purposes, what would be considered your Dorian shape is where my cursor is. But it's thrown off by this. It doesn't appear that it's there because of this natural 7 that's in this scale. So let's move on and find out about that. Time for our next, move on to our next slide here. So if that's the case, here is the Aeolian scale because, oh, back to here, sorry. Oh man, he's going back again. Notice with natural minor, it's helpful that I also called it Aeolian, gave it its modal name here. The Aeolian scale, ooh, sounds so crazy, right? Well, major, Ionian, right? These modal names also exist, by the way, in harmonic minor in the same order that they do major. In major, it's Ionian, where my plus sign is on the root. Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian, and back to Ionian. Now, you notice as I passed over the 6, I said Aeolian. And there's our 6, Aeolian. That's the Aeolian scale. So harmonic minor is basically Aeolian with a sharpened 7. So let's see that here, and then we'll get to the real punch. That's going to, the home run. So it's going to drive this all home. Here we can see the natural Aeolian scale. So you should know this as just an everyday scale based on the pentatonic with gut notes, as I've went over a million times in other lessons. So now let's add the half steps in. You know, it's cool, but it's kind of got a basic sound to it. As my strap pops off my guitar, because I had the strap folded in a way that makes it pop off. All right, so. Sloppy picking and everything. Okay, so there's regular natural minor, Aeolian, same thing. Here's harmonic minor, also known as Aeolian raised 7, because that's the only difference between the natural minor, Aeolian, and a harmonic minor is the Aeolian has a raised 7. So we have this sound now available. That coolness comes from just simply raising that 7 in the scale. And you can see it, I placed it directly above the scale here. And here we also got the dots on the fretboard, so you can see that we're basically on the 12th fret. And that lines us, our top note here, with E. So we know we're in E Aeolian with a raised 7, or harmonic minor, or E harmonic minor in this case. And so I made it so, you know, you can see I try to make it so it's obvious. Take a screenshot of this page, I guess, if you want. And you can see what the deal is. So so here in the scale, you can see it kind of in relation to the whole scale. Still looks like everything outside of here is a crazy mess. However, here's our navigation square right here at the top. Now that always gets me to be able to, whoops, cable happening. Just playing normal. Regular C major. conceptualize the square halfway. I'm on a half square. There's a full square broken over the strings. There's another square. I'm an Aeolian. I'm all over the fretboard because I know that square. It's what I was trying to show you. So the same thing can be had with harmonic minor. As a matter of fact, so how do we kind of understand this? How can I know where to put that sharp 7 on my whole fretboard? Well, take a look at one thing here before we go to the next slide. That the sharp 7 is always, notice here, like here's our square. It's always above. I'm sorry. Well, let's consider this above. That'd be the top of your fretboard here, the lower E strings, and the top high E string in that direction. It's always above or below the square. It's always on the far end here of the square. So it's one way to conceptualize this. But here's the knockout punch. So just raise the 7 to a regular 7 in all 3 minor shapes. Do this for Aeolian, do this for Dorian, do this for Phrygian, and you have the entire fretboard under your fingers in harmonic minor like nobody's business. Without too much thought, everyone's going to think you know harmonic minor everywhere. So I could theoretically be an Aeolian here going, sorry, let's get the tension off that chord. You also want to get it in your ear. You kind of want to know when you're ready for the... Now right there, if I hit that next normal note in my scale, I'm going to be wrong. So I got to be ready to go. Now regular. To A, we were, my bottom scale here is in E. It was just jamming in A harmonic minor. So I'm going to put it in, I will jam in E in a little bit, but the point was being able to just, I didn't know this till yesterday. Now I can go all up and down my fretboard just by conceptualizing these 3 shapes here, and I can still go diagonally by conceptualizing my square. And as you play around with it, you'll realize that you're in. As a matter of fact, another cool thing, well, I'll get to that in a second. It's on another slide. They're back to those 2 side-by-side or half-step apart major chords I was talking about. That 7th is located in one of those chords. So every time you find that 7, you're in one of your caged shapes that are one of these dual or side-by-side major chords, triads. So, for example, there's my 7. And if you accidentally hit that the regular note, it doesn't sound too bad, but hopefully your background accompaniment is only playing power chords, because then you can get away with playing both, by the way. So like to kind of go along with what I led myself into here, this 7 being within the 2 side-by-side triads, which I should probably get to on the next screen here. So really absorb this into your brain. Here is that Aeolian shape, although the yellow note denotes the changed note from normal Aeolian. And same here and same here. And as the final knowledge to link all these together, consider that I've spaced these apart to show you each separate, the Aeolian, the Dorian, the Phrygian. However, this note is this note. Once you've hit this note, you're basically physically, your finger is in, oh my God, Dorian. And you've got your sevens here, like this 7. Basically, this 7 links you up with Dorian. This 7 links you up with Phrygian, amongst being this square is this square. I mean, Phrygian and Dorian, you should know from watching other lessons, are overlapping pentatonics anyway, so they're interlocked. So I'm getting a message about something, so nothing I'm worried about. So Dorian, Phrygian, so they're interlocking. So back to what I was saying, so we can move on from there, because I wanted to wrap up this slide and get back to this. Let's skip over to this, my last slide here, so we can go with what I was just saying. Here I've highlighted what I was talking about, so it jumps out at you in this scale. You should be able to visualize this. There's 2 straight up and down triads right next to each other in our E harmonic minor scale. That would be on the our 4th and 5th fret. I should have put the dots down here. See if I could actually do that while we're on screen here. So we got a dot here and a dot here for the 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret, and 12th fret. Happy birthday to you. And something. Oh, no, I didn't screw up nothing. All right. Okay, so, because we skip 2 to get to that 12. Anyways, because those are odds and that's an even. So just to give us a little bit of a home advantage here, we got 4. If you ever hear those together, those are so, yeah. There was some point, I think I lost watching this lesson back. I'm going to go, oh yeah, why did I continue saying that? But it's lost now, so all well and done. But yeah, I mean, you can know about this scale by being able to visualize these 2 chords next to each other. And this is what you'll hear this used a lot when you hear a song that's used in harmonic minor. They'll kind of, many times they'll use this as a vice, especially this popular song that I'm going to go over in my next video to make this one a little shorter. My card's pissing me off. Oh yeah, I didn't just make that up. Did you know what song that was? That's what we'll go over on the next lesson, part of YYZ. And well, the point being that that song clearly uses that half step chord game of two major chords a half step apart, and that's a dead giveaway there. Like, oh, I bet this is in Aeolian. But back to my point that I was making, if um, you want to have some kind of cool fun with this concept here, you could play, put a backing track on. So let's say we're in this E harmonic minor. You could play this B and C as power chords. Power chords, like we mentioned earlier, don't have a third. So if you omit that third, so you're not playing this, you've really just suggested harmonic minor because you've got that raised 7 in there. But if you just play, you can play that. So you've got a choice there. And if you play just a point being, getting to the point here, sorry. If you just play the power chords of B and C, the half step apart power chords, you can mix and match both scales. And the great practice in doing that would really be familiarizing yourself with the shapes on your guitar and the sound in your ear, which both will reinforce each other to make you solid in both. All right, so I belabored that point, I think, as much as I can here. So we're going to go here, we're going to go here. And here's a cool thing you can do with, to kind of leave this lesson. Well, we'll get to the cool thing as the last slide. Here, I think I can go quickly. This is the navigation square I was talking about. This is the same scale as this. Just gets a little bigger because the outlining with a bold outline here makes the picture jump a little bit larger. But that being said, you can see the navigation square from the natural major minor scale, both the same thing as we went over in the relationship in the very first slide there. And you can see the square manifesting itself here, in case you've never seen this before, but can't really explain it fully here, but we just went over it a couple slides ago anyways. As is above, so is below is what I was trying to say. 2 rows of squares that connect to each other, so you always know where you are, except the only is, like I always say, the jump between, or the different interval between the G and the B string, which is a fourth instead of a fifth. If I'm thinking about that right. But whatever it is, that is different than, what is it that? That's a... Can't figure that out now. I didn't want to misspeak, but whatever. It doesn't really matter. It changes your tuning. It screws up the geometry of the fretboard enough to where it throws the newbies off, is what I'm trying to say. And you never get to really take advantage of this unless someone shows it to you. But anyways, there's 2 rows, and you get to find these. You can always navigate from one to the other if you ever get lost or feel like you're got this shape down, but there's still gray area here. Jump to the top string. You've got a half square. Wherever you've got a whole square, you got a half square. On the other one, it's the opposite on the other side. If you've got a whole square here, like in the Aeolian shape that you can see right here, if you've got a whole square, you've got a half square. If you're in the Dorian, if you've got the whole square on bottom, you've got the half square on the low E string. So you can see here the basically 2 rows. It's this row, and you're now an octave higher, the exact same thing as this row. That's that easy. People don't realize that the geometry of the fretboard is actually people think it's so complex. They think there's got to be more, and they're just frozen in fear of navigating the fretboard because they think there's so much more to it than it's actually this simple. So that's the ultimate point. Oh, and right here, which is covered, I'm going to disappear for a second here to. So let me see if I can do that here. Okay, I gotta go back here. I gotta go here. Whoa, and I got to go video capture device. Let's lock that up for a second and see what happens. No, that doesn't do it. Let's click the eyeball, and clicking an eyeball makes me disappear. Poke me in the eye. Okay, I'm back to where I need to be. So I got my cursor. Down here, where my cursor is, you have the, well, up here actually, you have the natural major scale pattern. This is the basic chord pattern that contains every note that you're playing no matter where you are on the fretboard. It doesn't seem like it's true, but it is. Try to find yourself in the major scale playing outside of this box. You can't, because this is all there is that is repeating on your fretboard. Now, that being said, you can see that the root here, Ionian, is here, and the difference, Aeolian, is here. And so since harmonic minor is equivalent to the Aeolian scale, you can see the harmonic minor root is where Aeolian is, and it's called Aeolian Ray 7, as we discussed earlier. These letters in here represent the pattern of modes, and you can see the pattern of modes or modal names for these scales follows the same. But here's something cool to know. In major, you use Ionian. You might create a song in Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, because they all are very useful. In modern music, composers haven't really, and probably for good reason, you don't hear a lot about Ionian with the, what is it? I got it written down here. Of course, I changed the page because I had to call about something important before I, here it is, good. Ionian sharp 5. You don't hear about that too much. This would be this scale. The next one would be, well, you're also the number one mode in regular major. 1 is Ionian, 2 Dorian, 3 Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian. This is just the octave pattern on the guitar. That's why there's 2 Ds. Mixolydian, Aeolian, Locrian. Now, it's the same similar pattern in harmonic minor. However, they've changed the names up because of the differences. We still have Ionian, Dorian, the same octave Dorian. That's like tuning your guitar. Okay, so Dorian. Then you have Phrygian dominant. Instead of just Phrygian, it's called Phrygian dominant. Then you have Lydian, which would be Lydian sharp 2 because of this note here. This is called super Locrian instead of Mixolydian because it's not really a Mixolydian scale anymore. And that's why I got a star there, because every time I refer to Locrian, I differentiate it from Lydian with a little star because it's not so commonly used anyways. Here we have Aeolian Ray 7. Now this is the harmonic minor scale root, so that is used a lot. The number 2 one here, Locrian flat 6, not very common. Ionian sharp 5, as we said. Dorian sharp 4, which is also considered a sharp 11. Used somewhat. Phrygian dominant, however, is the big guy on campus. This is used in a lot of songs. You will hear a lot of people talk about Phrygian dominant. They may talk about Lydian dominant too, I think, but let's not confuse ourselves too much here. And super Locrian, but Phrygian dominant going to be a common one. I'm about to get some people walking in the door here, so let's move on. Consider ourselves talked about enough of that. Another final thing you can do with this harmonic minor scale to leave you with today is harmonized 6. Always sound cool. And here we go. Hello, it's the orange and blue. The every other harmony here is just got a different color. They're different harmonies, but I just separated them with two different colors. So we have the one way you can get consider these in pairs and they become easier to conceptualize. You have the two from the two straight up and down triad chords. You have this group here, which is kind of considered a cage and a kind of, I've discussed this as a lion in a cage. Give me 1 second here, folks. And, all right. So we have a lion in a cage, and just to make this lesson, I'm gonna pop myself back on screen here. Hey, so here we are back in business. We've got this lion in the cage. You can always, between these groups, just jump a whole step to the next group and you'll find it. So if I was here on the 4th and 5th fret, I would jump up to here to the 7th fret, play this very common shape. That's also found in the major scale as evidence that this is very closely related to the major and minor scale. So there's a shared part, but then this is a little different here. We have our closest note here, this blue 5 right here, is a whole step away from the bottom note here. So that's how I was able to see it when I was going, thinking to myself, oh crap, where's that next pair that I need to sound right on? And you can see the relationship to the full chords. Or just kind of useless. So that's the lesson today about harmonic minor and our chord pairs that we were just talking about. So once I was playing this scale and going like this, I was like, hey, those are the two chords used in YYZ. So I will be talking about in another lesson that I'm going to probably go live on, or I don't know, maybe I'll go make it a live lesson. Let's try that right after I upload this, and we'll talk about Rush YYZ and how it relates to the harmonic minor scale. Stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, because you're awesome, like another great YouTuber always says, and covers the camera and ends the lesson, but we're not going to do that today. We're just going to tell you you're awesome. Hope you like the lesson, and hit the like button because of that, and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you could. That would be awesome, but at least like and leave a comment so I can know more about what you guys like, what you guys don't like about lessons, or what you guys like, because yeah, I want to encourage all that don't like stuff too prevalent on social media. And thank you for watching. We're going to see you next lesson.